Hello, this is Mrs. Drury, and we are continuing with our experience with Kenya. And we said yesterday Kenya was a noun, it's a place, and we're going to learn about this place known as Kenya. And we talked about some of the differences we noticed right off the bat is that they wear different clothing, they carry their children a little bit differently, and by different people. Table of contents. Where is it? Page 4. People, page 6. Land, 8. Celebrations, 10. Animals, 12. Conclusion, 14. And glossary, 16. Now, as we're reading the story, I want you to read along with me. The idea is that eventually you should be able to, and maybe you can even read it without hearing me in the background, but maybe the first time through, listen to the way the words are pronounced. And then the trick is then to mute me, my voice, Mrs. Drury's voice, and you read it by yourself to develop that fluency piece. Even though you don't have a physical book in front of you, you do have one that is available and you can read at your own pace. So simply what you would do is you would pause at each page and read at your pace, not at my pace, at your pace, just to see that you could read it without my assistance. Where is it? Kenya is a country in Africa. Part of the country is next to let me start over. Where is it? Kenya is a country in Africa. Part of the country is next to the Indian Ocean. 5 different countries border Kenya to the north, south, east, and west. So when we talk about bordering, these are countries. Somalia is bordering around Ethiopia, is bordering around this country right here known as Kenya. Kenya is in a country known as Africa, but within Africa, there are different countries. And the one that we're talking about today is Kenya. And we notice that part of its border is by an ocean known as Kenya. The capital of Kenya is Nairobi. More than 3 million people live there. The city has many businesses. Many different goods are made there. Nairobi has many hotels for people who visit Kenya. At one famous hotel, guests can eat breakfast with giraffes. So here's a guest of the hotel in their capital of Nairobi, and this guest gets to have the experience of feeding a giraffe. Friendly giraffes live in the areas around Giraffe Manor near Nairobi. So again, if you'd like to go to Kenya someday, you might want to stay in Nairobi, which is the capital. And the name of the hotel is the Giraffe Manor. So that is where you would have that experience of being able to feed the giraffes. People. More than 45 million people live in Kenya. Kenya's people belong to more than 30 different tribes. Kenyan people speak the language of their tribe. Most people also speak Swahili or English. Swahili and English are the 2 main languages of Kenya. The Maasai are one tribe of Kenyan people. Who could tell me what is a tribe? Well, let's say you don't remember. Where could you look? You could go clear to the back of the book and we could look up what tribe means. So repeat after me. Tribes. Groups of people who share a culture and land. So the tribes that we're talking about in Kenya share the same culture. They share a language and they share the land. Okay. Oops. So this Maasai is one tribe in Kenya. So they're going to share the same land, the same language, and the same culture. Moving on. Most of people live in the countryside. Many farm the land. They grow food to feed their families. They also grow crops to sell. Tea, coffee, corn, and wheat are some of the main crops. A worker spreads out coffee beans to dry at a factory in Kenya. Later, the beans can be ground up to make coffee. And you know that many, or should I say most teachers survive on coffee, and most adults do. All right, and what we've just learned about the people of Kenya, they grow their own food. So they're growing it for their families instead of going to the supermarket like we do, the grocery store to get food. They actually grow their own. They also are farmers of crops. So yesterday we learned about that word. And remember, crops are what they are able to harvest at the end of a growing season. So they plant them, they nourish these plants, they grow, and then they harvest them to sell. So their main crops that they do are tea, coffee, corn, and wheat. Those are their main crops. Not to say that people of Kenya do not have other crops, but those are their main crops. Land. Kenya has low land along the Indian Ocean. So you'll see this is kind of like Ohio. It's pretty low. The land rises to become highlands in the west. The highlands include mountains and raised flat areas. So this is here, and as you go more west, you're going to notice more of that land, including mountains and raised flat areas. The Great Rift Valley splits the highlands. This valley is a crack in the land that was made millions of years ago. It is 6,400 kilometers or 3,977 miles long. The valley has deserts and lakes. Lake Bogoria is one of the many lakes in the Great Rift Valley. And that is a photograph. That's how we know that this book is nonfiction. And the words that we read just below are known as what? That's right, captions. Celebrations. People from Kenya celebrate many special days. Great Britain ruled Kenya for many years. On December 12th, 1963, Kenya became a free country. Every December 12th, people celebrate with feasts, parades, and dancing. Dancers from different tribes come together to celebrate Kenya's freedom on December the 12th. So their freedom is very similar to our celebration known as the 4th of July. Theirs is celebrated December the 12th, which is pretty close to another holiday known as Christmas. But they're celebrating December 12th. What do you notice about, if this is December 12th in Ohio, what's the difference between what's going on here and what our outside looks like on December the 12th? All right, are we running around in short sleeves and the sun's nice and bright and it looks warm, doesn't it? Does Ohio look like that on December 12th? No. Kenya's Camel Race Festival starts in late August. It lasts for 3 days. People come from all over the world to race camels. At the festival, visitors enjoy bike races, dancing, and local foods. They buy arts and crafts made from different tribes. Some tribes in Kenya raise camels to race and to carry people. So they have a fun festival right around the time that we celebrate something in Lima, Ohio, known as the Allen County Fair. And many of you at the beginning of the year talked about how you got to go there and how you got to experience different rides and fair food and all those fun things. Very similar, okay? Just like the fair, people buy things there. They buy arts and they might buy crafts while they're there. They don't enjoy, there might be some, I don't think there's bikes, but we enjoy rides at our festival. All right, but this is what they do in Kenya. They ride and race their camels. So that sounds kind of interesting. Animals. So now the heading is known as animals, and we're going to talk about animals that are specific to this area. Kenya is famous for its wild animals. Some of them are very rare. And we talked about that word rare yesterday. Rare means to be uncommon, and the prefix un means not. So uncommon means they're not common. Kenya is home to many animals that are not common, not things that you would just see every day. Kenya has more than 50 parks and protected areas for animals. Every year, many people travel to Kenya to see these animals. Giraffes, zebras, and others grazing animals fill Kenya's savannas. Lions and cheetahs live on the savannas too. So if you're an animal lover, particularly of wild animals, big cats, zebras, things like that you would typically see in our zoos, they're out in their actual habitat known as the savannas. And people travel. They travel from all over the world to see these animals. Right here, we got another picture with a caption. Let's read the caption. Zebras and a giraffe drink from a water hole in a protected area in Kenya. Lions also lived in these protected areas. So again, when we say that they are protected, we talked about yesterday, we talked about how the governor is trying to protect us from the COVID-19 virus. All right. These animals are rare. They're not common. So in Kenya, their government is protecting these animals, making sure that there are not people hunting them for their fur and also for their meat. They're protected. You cannot kill them. And if you do, you're going to suffer a consequence. All right. So these are protected in parks and other areas. Elephants, buffalo, and rhinos also live in Kenya. Crocodiles and hippos swim in its rivers and lakes. Kenya has more than 1,000 kinds of birds. Wading birds live near lakes. Eagles and hawks glide through the air. So Kenya has more than 1,000. How many groups of 100 are in 1,000? How many groups? Do you guys know how many groups of 100 are in 1,000? Think about that. Tell an adult. If you said 10 groups of 100 equal 1,000, you're absolutely correct. So they have thousands of different kinds of birds. And then they also have wading birds living near lakes. Who can tell me what wading means? Not waiting, but wading with a D. Wading birds live near lakes. So if you think about it, if they live near lakes, what do you think it involves? Maybe it involves something with water. All right. Wading is a verb. It means to walking through water or another liquid or soft substance. All right, so wading birds mean words that walk through water. Okay, and why I say water, not another substance, is because they live near what? They live near the lake. So they're wading birds that live near the lake. So they're walking through water. All right, and then we have another word there, and that word is what? Glide. And it talks about the word glide. What does glide mean? Does anybody remember when we studied that word earlier this year, the word glide? All right, and it says, it's in this sentence, eagles and hawks glide through the air. And glide means to move with a smooth, continuous, which means you don't stop, motion with little or no noise. So when you're gliding, you're moving with smooth, continuous means ongoing motion and you're not really making a whole lot of noise. Conclusion. Kenya has mountains and flat land. It has deserts, forests, and savannas. Many different tribes make up its people. Many rare animals are found there. Kenya is one of Earth's treasures. Nairobi has a wildlife park in its backyard. Nairobi National Park is located just a few kilometers from the city. Remember, Nairobi is its capital. So you look what you can see in its wildlife park. You can see a giraffe, and just it's so interesting because you get this wild animal, and then in the backdrop, you're seeing the big capital of Kenya known as Nairobi. All right, so we're to this page here in Kenya. Right here is its flag. The population is 45,010,056. The land size is 596,140 square kilometers, or 219,746 square miles. The capital city is Nairobi. The primary languages is Swahili and English. And the currency is the Kenyan and the shilling. And this right here is the currency and photographs with that. So there's the flag. So this kind of gives you, if you want to have a quick glance of some facts, some quick facts of Kenya. And we're right back here to the glossary. Let's go over the glossary again. Crops, which is a thing, it's a noun. Plants grown by farmers for food or other uses. The amount of plants gathered in one season. Highlands, areas that have many mountains. That is a noun. Protected is an adjective. An adjective describes nouns. Guarded or defended from harm or danger. So who in this particular story was protected? That's right, the rare animals are protected by different areas in Kenya. So they are protected. They are guarded or defended from harm or danger. Rare, and that's an adjective. And what is rare describing? It's describing, once again, those wild animals. Not happening very often, uncommon. So those wild animals like the tiger and all that are rare. They're not common. Un means not. It's a prefix. You put it in front of common and it becomes not rare. Okay, uncommon means not rare. The antonym would be common. Savannas, flat grasslands with few trees. And we know that this is the home of a lot of the wildlife in Kenya. Tribes, groups of people who share a culture and a land. All right, tribes. And they said, I think there were 35 tribes, at least in Kenya. All right, so that's what we learned about today. So what I want you to do is I would like for you to jot down on a piece of paper. See if this is working now. And you're going to take a picture of it and send it to me so I know that this is going to be for a grade. The one thing I found interesting about Kenya is, all right. And and maybe if you found more than one thing, I can give you some extra credit, but instead of saying one, you could say the things, and you could put an S on the end. The things I found interesting about Kenya are, you would change this out to the word are, and then you would tell me, and then I want you to tell me why. So if you have more than one, you're going to tell me why for each one. So I found the one thing I found most interesting about Kenya is the wildlife. The reason why I found this to be interesting is because their government protects these rare animals. All right. So that would be an example of why you might find that interesting. All right. What I would like you to do is come up with your own words. I'm not going to write out my complete sentence here because I want you to do your own work. That is your assignment. I hope you enjoyed this lesson learning about Kenya, which is a country in Africa. They have a completely different way of celebrating, living, their animal life, their way their environment is. They live in savannas, which has mountains, very different than where we live. And it's very good. It's very interesting to learn about different areas on our planet Earth that's very different from ours. Because, one day you may want to travel to these other places and to experience some of these things. I know as a young child, that's what I always dreamed of doing is traveling and learning about different areas. So one way we can do that before we have the money and we're old enough is to learn about these places so that one day we could experience them for ourselves. Guys, have a fabulous day. It's supposed to be beautiful outside. So you hope after you get done doing all your work, you get to go out and maybe ride your bike. I will see you later. Bye.